Hello.
Hello. Wow. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you not going to do video?
I'm just pressing on now. You'll be able to see me in all my glory, in my gym gear and housekeeping outfit. This one isn't going. The visuals aren't going out to air, are they?
I do like to put them up on my YouTube channel, but no one's watching that at the moment. It's just about SEO, but we don't have to. Don't worry about it. It doesn't have to go on there. It's okay.
Amy, I would have dressed up. like you, I'm in the process of moving house.
Oh God, where are you going?
Well, where I'm sitting right now is I'm in Paddington. This is where my partner lives, or he's been here for about 6 months, and I'm in the process of moving in. So today, between our little chat, he's at work and I'm basically clearing out the cupboards and getting rid of everything that I need to get rid of whilst he's not here, so I can make room for me to move in with the kids.
I've done that before. And it was actually in Paddington.
You settled in?
Yeah, I moved in with Brett.
I have a little bit of a... oh, that's your husband at the moment, correct?
Yes.
Brett's your husband.
Yes.
There's a bit of a delay, Amy. Can you hear the delay?
Yeah, I can.
On the video?
We have problems here with the internet. Far out.
Okay. Well, that's all right. Let's just see how we go, and the delay will be the delay, and we'll just try and do our best with it, right?
And if it doesn't,
and here I am in. This is classic. No, it'll work. It'll be great. But when you said podcast, I thought, oh, that's okay. It's just going to be audio. I don't need to do any dress up or even have a shower.
I've got to redo my grays. It's when I'm looking at myself going, oh my God. So no, I'm not fussed if it doesn't go up. It's all good.
It's funny that you say that. I'm seeing the grey coming, 1 or 2 this year, and I said to the hairdresser, what will I do? And she goes, you need to just pluck them out until you start to have to start dyeing, because I haven't had the pleasure of dyeing my hair since I was 20 when I was blonde.
Aren't you lucky?
So far. Amy, you want to do a cost analysis? I get 4 haircuts a year at $80 a haircut. That's it.
Wow. Well, I haven't got my hair all this year, so that's why it's long and stringy. And I've started going and dyeing my own hair, going like doing my own, because I can't stand sitting in 3 hours. I can't do it. And when you're blonde, you have to. They do the foils, and I'm like,
time.
See, time is too much for me. So I get the worst anxiety in a salon because it's 3 hours of my time. Hate it. Anyway, it just very effective for me. So
time is of the essence.
Absolutely, and also the cost, like $400 usually per hair. Why? It's ridiculous. I mean, everyone's got to earn a living. I get, but
if you do a budget and you factor it into a 12-month budget, it actually is quite expensive.
It is. Oh, I see that all the time. So I'm always looking at people's expenditure. It's part of the process I put them through. And a lot of people have no idea how much money they spend on things until it's broken down into categories, and they're going, oh, yeah. They're just unaware and blind spending. It's insane. People do that. It's in the sand, so to speak. Now I'm going to stop. I've just realised I'm going to just pause the recording for a second. Well, welcome to another Sensibility podcast. Today we have Sarah Lloyd, who is a fashion designer, but a designer who's actually got an incredible vision, and really is all about sustainability and ensuring that the brand is Australian made, Australian owned. And I recently went to one of her shows and was quite impressed with how her business is modelled and just her outlook on fashion overall. So I really wanted to get her on the show because it comes back to how what we talk about on Sensibility about value and how investing in quality items that last long term and how fashion can actually fit into that sort of concept as well. It doesn't need to be something that we buy and throw, and which is terrible for the environment and also not great for our wallets. So welcome to the show, Sarah. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks for having me on this morning. It's a pleasure to catch up with you as always, but also to be able to spend some time discussing things that are close to my heart with regards to sustainability, but also with design and seeing how women can not only feel good about themselves, but also be mindful, I guess, of the issues that we face around sustainability and looking at pieces which ultimately make them look and feel beautiful and last.
Absolutely. I had Jessica, who's a stylist, on the show not so long ago. We talked about the importance of investing in yourself and how clothing can make a big difference how you feel when you look good. And when I saw you and your range, which are classic pieces, quality fabrics, and that magic word sustainable design, that you've really created a way of bringing a business to actually fit a lot of people's values in this current day and age where we're all becoming very aware of our environment and how much we consume and whatnot. So it sort of married in well when I saw you and with what the messages I'm sort of really trying to bring to light with this Sensibility podcast. So can you tell me, you sort of shared this with me when I saw your show, about your range and what sort of motivated you to create something that doesn't really fit the mainstream sort of fashion business?
Yeah. I was going to say, Amy, first and foremost, with design, I guess I've been lucky of late because my values that I've held probably for the better part of 20 years or since I was young, and now probably more or less becoming in vogue and are quite mainstream when we use words like sustainability or less is more or quality over quantity. At the heart of the business for me was always the passion and desire to create pieces first and foremost that make women feel beautiful. I guess my background or growing up or family may have had some impact in the aesthetic. As far as classic, I was always drawn to create or design pieces that I thought held value long term. I never saw any sense in buying something that you would have for a season or 6 months and then you would have to either gift it away or throw it away. I've always thought about the environment, but more about your wardrobe and I guess your time, how much time it takes you to go out and cultivate pieces. So whenever I was designing, for me, it came from that place of, do I love it today? Will I love it tomorrow? Can I see myself wearing this in 10 years' time? So with that in mind, every time I do a piece for a woman, I try and think longevity. I think if you're going to buy something I love the word investment because I think what's the point of buying anything if it's not for long term? I've never been a fan of mass consumption or throwing away. I think it's something that is quite near and dear to my heart. And as I said to you now, it seems to become in vogue that a lot more people are thinking about what they're bringing into their homes or what they're bringing into their wardrobes, whether or not it's serving them long term and how it's going to work with their lifestyle. So first, I mean, as I said, I want something to be beautiful and I like to be able to think, is this going to be around in 10 years? Will I wear it? And then thirdly, I always like to think about versatility and that comes back to lifestyle. So if I do design a piece, and it might be for me, I really love tailored pieces and shirts and blazers. I then try and think how many ways can this be worn back? And I think you touched on Jess before, who's a stylist, who's also quite great at when she's meeting with women, sort of looking at their wardrobes and saying, this is an investment piece. How can I wear it? How many occasions? Will I have it long term? How is it going to wash and wear? That's a big thing for me too. Whenever I look at designing a garment, I go through a process of testing the garment. I usually like to wear it myself for at least 3 to 6 months to see how I feel, to see how it performs, because I want my clients and customers to have a particular experience when they're wearing my product. So I hope that answers some of the questions, but it's always, for me, it's been something very classic, something very versatile, and something that wears well. But ultimately, I think the woman, you've got to feel beautiful. When you feel beautiful, you radiate a particular kind of confidence. And again, you probably would have spoke with Jess and other stylists who will confirm that feeling when you put something on, how it can affect your day.
100%. You brought that word investment in, and that's, you know, obviously the common thread here is we all spend money in some way, shape or form. We all invest in our wardrobe, but it's making those right choices, those right investments for the long term. So you creating a sustainable wear in terms of design and working with the right fabrics and considering the long-term future of that garment is where we've, you know, when we're purchasing is where we go, that's what, you know, I was raised similar with the whole classic concept. My great grandmother had said to us when we were growing up, always wear something, a quality piece, a quality expensive piece, because it will make the outfit. And I've always kept that in mind. You know, you can get some, you know, a basic t-shirt and some jeans, but that blazer will just pull it all together. And, you know, so when we're thinking about what we're spending our money on, we really need to be more, considerate of not just whether this piece is just going to be thrown out in the next 6 to 12 months. If it's going to be something we're spending good money on, say $400 or $500 or maybe even $1,000 on this one garment, how long is that going to be lasting? So one thing I was really impressed about with your presentation is this whole wash and wear and the concept of really researching and sourcing quality fabrics, because that also comes into the, you know, your values of ensuring the garment is sustainable and will last a lifetime.
Yes, Amy, I was going to speak a little bit more about sustainability. I guess in particular in the fashion industry, a lot of people, there's a big spotlight, or has been in the last couple of years, on fabrication and what fabrics are sustainable and which fabrics aren't sustainable. And that, I mean, I won't go sort of too deep or far down into that today because it's a whole other side matter. But for myself personally, I love using natural fabrics, which are silks and cottons and linens. But on the flip side of that, if you want to really delve deep in sustainability, if you look at how some of the cottons are farmed and the chemical processes they go through to become wearable, some might argue that it's not entirely great for the environment. So I try to keep an open mind. I'm also will use, this is a scary word for a lot of people, the word polyester at times. For me, again, it would have to come back to me, chiffon polyester that's a high grade quality and is going to last 10 to 20 years over another piece that basically might be sustainable but falls into pieces within 4 to 6 months. I have to sort of look at what's the long-term value here. So for me, it's always been about the garment feeling beautiful, looking beautiful and lasting, but I'm not so heavily invested into, is this a cotton and, you know, is it a silk? They are my preference, but at the end of the day, it'll always come down to how the garment presents, how it feels on and how long it lasts. So that's a sort of a little bit of a different side project, because there are a lot of fashion labels and brands out there purporting to be sustainable, but at the same time, they're using very, very low grade natural fibers essentially that are designed only to last a handful of months and again will go into landfill. So it's a very interesting topic, and I think the good thing is people are becoming a lot more educated. My approach to sustainability wholeheartedly, it's going to be quite an interesting topic, Amy, is we need to be consuming a lot less. That's sustainable. I think I might have spoken about that when you did come to my recent showing. So for us all to move forward into sustainability is very much about acquiring less pieces, but about those pieces being quality pieces that last for years and years. So you might be someone that you think that you're being sustainable by buying a handful of pieces that might be a particular fabric, but at the end of the day, you're still consuming volume that's going into landfill. So yeah, I guess it's a strange thing. Could you call me anti-consumer and a minimalist? I have a very old-fashioned approach as well. If you look, I think if you speak to some of the elderly people that are still around, or your grandparents, if you have them, they may have had 5 or 10 outfits, and that was it. And they had one outfit on a Sunday, and they weren't ashamed to wear that on repeat or wear that for the year. Whereas I think, you know, we've come from a very different mindset where women think that they need, for each occasion or each venue, they need a whole new outfit to present in. And I think we need to probably start shifting our mindsets a little bit with respect to our turnover in clothes. And I think women may need to get a little bit more comfortable with being seen in the same piece again and again. But coming back to design, I always try and think about that, Amy. If it is a particular dress or a blazer, I don't, more often than not, I won't sort of opt for a big, loud print that's quite noticeable or that's transient. I think when you look at a handful of prints, people do identify, oh, that particular dress. Whereas if you do something, the classic black or a classic navy that can be accessorized a number of ways, it sort of provides you, I guess, with that longevity where it's a piece that you will wear again and again and still feel quite comfortable in.
That, there's a few things in my mind's going a million miles an hour with questions that I want to ask you, because you've said so many things there that interest me. Firstly, I remember when after the show, I was like, oh, there's so many things I want to buy here. And you turned around to me and said, don't buy anything right now, because I've had a baby and I want to lose weight, and I'm not wanting to buy many clothes until I'm back to my normal size and work with what I've already got in my wardrobe. And there's some classic pieces in your line that I absolutely love. Some of you've got some beautiful blazers and some gorgeous dresses. But you very clearly said, no, don't buy anything. And it's a very unusual thing to hear from a fashion label who needs to be in business and earn an income, discouraging someone wanting to purchase. I sort of found that there's your integrity right there. There's sort of you walking the talk and believing in what you believe in, knowing that I will come back and purchase when I'm ready. But there was no pressure for me to do that. So that also brings me to how another part of your business model, which I found, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that you will make to order. So you're not mass producing. So not mass producing means there's less landfill there as well if those items don't get sold.
Yeah, well, part of and I'll explain the made to order, Amy. So with the production run for me as a boutique business, I produce and manufacture in Australia. That's, again, might be a different podcast or a chat for us, because that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. And it's, for me as a designer, it's also had its advantages this year, 2020, being COVID and everything that's unfolded. So being a boutique business that's agile, I produce very small limited runs. So at any one time in my collection, it's about at 30 units per garment, when other labels are looking at minimums of 1,000 plus per garment. With my made to order, really that's a means of me being able to do a handful of more pieces that are specialized, that might be occasion based, where women come to me and can choose their fabrication and get the dress, I guess, customized to fit them. With COVID, obviously you came to a showing a couple of months ago, which was one of the first for me for 2020, but with the way that the year's panned out again for 2021, I'm looking to redo those seasonal showings, probably 4 per year, where I'll be looking at doing highlight pieces for women that can come and order something which is customized for them. And again, I guess that touches on that sustainability. I'm not, when it comes to the high-end fashion pieces, I'm not in a position to do a production run and have them sort of sit there. I much prefer sort of to work with women one-on-one, show them some highlight pieces. It gives me an opportunity to, as a designer, to do a few more pieces that excite me, I guess. I mean, the classics are great pieces, but every now and then you like to branch out as a designer and do other pieces that, I guess you could say, take women's breath away. And that's where I do the custom made and made to order.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And I just there's not much of that kind of service out there. We've been a society where everything is instant. You know, we've got our phones, it's instant. We want to know something, we Google. And I love the idea of you know, getting a piece that's made. I get, because I go races and whatnot, I have hats that are made for me and whatnot. And there's nothing better than having that anticipation of a piece that you're waiting for, and then it's done and it's arrived, and you're a part of the creative process, even though you're, as a consumer, not the one creating it, but you're involved in some right way. That's exciting, and I think that's a great another part of the investment process. And you know, you're involved, there's a waiting period of getting it sort of sorted and ready to be made and whatnot. So I love that concept. When you sort of said, when I found out, actually it was actually months ago, I remember messaging you and going, do you do custom pieces like made to order? And you came back and went, yes. And obviously COVID happened and I was like, oh, we can't get anything made. But this is what I want, because I love that idea. You are going to be looking to have some special pieces, unique pieces. You are going to stand out in the crowd, and you can re-wear them over and over again in different ways and different at different events, because you know that no one else is going to have that.
Yeah.
And that's gorgeous.
It is lovely, Amy, working with the clients. I especially love the process of guiding them. After the recent showing in October, I've done a number of custom orders, and you can show a client a particular fabric in a certain color, and then when you sort of get a little bit more one-on-one with them, I think the guiding process in showing them what colors which will really bring them to life. I had a client recently, she's just over the moon at I was able to source a particular emerald, I guess you call it an emerald green, and even I was surprised, because first we were going to be going for something royal blue, which was quite bright, and then I came along the screen, I thought, gosh, this is really this woman, I hope she loves it. And she was sort of blown away. So you get, becoming part of the process in sort of designing your own piece, or choosing a color or a fabric which you know is really going to bring you to life, or be made specifically for you, is a part of the business that I mean, it's a boutique or a small aspect of the business, but something that I'm still sort of heavily invested in and engaged with in offering that service, because you're right, we have sort of come into a time where we're living in a very fast pace, everything's mass made, sort of a cookie cutter process. So for us still, especially here in Australia, to be able to offer a boutique service for women where they can become part of the design process, I think it's very special. And especially this year, I think a lot of people's mindsets have gone back to that less is more, not saying crafting or boutiquing, but I think it's made a lot of people stop and think and reevaluate how they're living their lives, and the kind of approach they want to take moving forward.
100%. This year has been, it's like with, my stepdaughter's really into her, star signs, and she's like, we're entering the age of Aquarius now, and it's a 1,000-year process, but it's a time where awareness is coming, and this year has been a pivot point for many businesses, where we're all kind of reevaluating our, what we want out of life. Working from home is one thing. You will found, you brought up actually the concept of having a uniform, so having some key pieces that you wear that are just comfortable wearing every single day. And I think most of us who work from home in the beginnings of COVID found themselves automatically, not even thinking about it, putting on sort of a uniform somewhere. Whether it be the tracksuit pant, which I never really wore until this year. I never even pair of trackies. But because I was still trying to deal with the baby weight, I was just like, I want to be comfortable. But what I found my uniform was actually the maternity dresses that I wore over and over and over again last year. Elastic waistband, still looked really lovely, flowy, maxi dresses that in winter I could put leggings under, and be warm. And I love that idea of, let's have a uniform. Let's have some really key pieces that are really we can dress up with some accessories and whatever and still look like on Zoom or when we're heading up the shops. I think we can still celebrate dressing nicely, but it doesn't have to be that we have a new outfit every single day.
Yeah, I agree. I love the idea of a uniform, Amy, only because it also saves so much time for women. So it really, when I talk or brief women about a uniform, essentially you want to look at what's your lifestyle or where are you at today, not where you were 5 years ago. So what are you actually doing today? What size are you today? And it doesn't need to be so many pieces as well. I sort of have spoken to clients about it being 3 to 4 pieces that fit your body shape, you feel comfortable, you feel confident in, and then getting it in 2 to 3 colorways that actually suit you and you wear it again and again. I said I love designing, but I don't, to be frank and honest with a lot of women, is like I probably own about 4 or 5 pieces from my entire collection, and in the last however many years, you'll see me wearing that same jumpsuit in 3 colorways. It could be an evening and I change the fabric to a silk or something bright. Out of all my blazers, probably 2 that I wear on repeat all the time, and a handful of cotton t-shirts and denim. I've got a uniform for myself because it makes my life easy, and I know when I put it on, it works for me, it suits me. Obviously, you have special events or occasions where you dress up, but essentially I find for women, unless you're changing body shape, i.e. going through a life change or having a baby, I think you should try to be considered or mindful about those shapes that suit you and sort of stick to that. And I think, again, it's all different things, branding and identity, but people come to know you, I guess, for a particular look or a particular aesthetic. It is exciting to go out and surprise people or dress it up. I just think when it comes to streamlining your life and feeling comfortable and confident, a uniform really works to serve you long term. I absolutely love it. And I talk to people who actually are fortunate enough to be given a uniform for work. Having said that, there's many uniforms I could think of for work that aren't so exciting, but those that are given sort of beautiful uniforms absolutely love the idea of not being able to think every morning to get up and know that they put something on that they feel confident and comfortable in. So I've always encouraged women, even those that are looking at my collection or looking at a handful of pieces, that evaluate what's happening in your life at the moment. What are the shapes? What are the colors? Stick with that and work to update it as need be every 6 to 12 months if necessary.
I can think of a few people, famous people that I know have their own uniform. Years and years ago, when Elle Macpherson was, clicked by paparazzi all the time. You see my baby in the background there?
Gorgeous. Yes.
She would always be wearing a white T-shirt, a navy blazer, a black blazer, double-breasted, and blue jeans and loafers. That was her look, with black sunnies. And every time it was winter, she would have a scarf, and the same way the scarf was always, that was a look consistently that she always had. Gail Kelly, who is CEO of Westpac, always had the same suit but different colours. So she would have the same suit, different fabrics. Steve Jobs always had the grey T-shirt and jeans. That was his uniform. Had multiple T-shirts and jeans. That was it. So you know what? It takes it does take the thinking out of what you have to get up and wear as a work day. And then obviously weekend you can change it up. But thinking about how we spend money, obviously I'm going to bring money into the conversation being the podcast. And look at people's expenditure. It's part of what I do for a living. And a lot of people are very unaware of the money they spend, especially women, when it comes to their looks, their beauty regime, their fitness regime, and also their clothing. And it can be quite overwhelming when they see the money they spend, and yet they can go, oh my God, I've got nothing to wear. And they want to pull out, go shopping, go to Zara or H&M or somewhere cheap and cheerful to grab a new piece to only wear it once. And I've been guilty of that before I engaged with Jessica. I had outfits that either, I had lots of outfits I got secondhand and love reused stuff. I love classic old school. I love op-shop clothing. But there were also clothes in my wardrobe that had tags on them. That's
Wow.
even been worn.
Oh.
And that's not okay. I mean, I do have a big wardrobe. I do have a lot of clothes, but I have them, I've got my racing gear. I've got my, sort of black tie events, small, but I've got a few things that if I've got an event, I've got 3 or 4 amazing pieces that I could wear depending on what time of year it is. And then I've got my everyday wear. And I've just had a cull recently because I had to move house. And I don't want, I wasn't going to buy any more clothes until I got rid of a good bag of stuff that went to charity. But then I had this massive guilt because I was throwing stuff away. So I'm changing the way I'm thinking, and it's because of a business like yourself that this concept where we're now thinking, hang on, I want to buy pieces I'm never going to throw away again.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be able to go move house again and not feel like I have to cull more stuff that this is going to last me forever. And knowing that there's an amount of money that I've saved because I've invested in these long-term pieces. I'm not going to H&M or Zara or somewhere, where their designs are constantly churning and they want to sell non-stop. But a lot of that stuff does get thrown away.
Yeah, I think coming back to the concept of the uniform, or what works for me, what suits me, what's the best version of me, really helps you steer away from what we call trends. And I think that's a very old-fashioned thing now. Like, that's where once upon a time when we had magazines, every month would be these season's colors, this particular trend, this particular look. Like, I think women are a lot more savvy and in tune with themselves now, that whole concept of what's in at the moment, those that I guess have a lot more of a considered aesthetic or leer towards being sophisticated don't opt to go for trends and therefore aren't caught up in that cycle of, oh God, I need something new, or what's in trend, I need to look a certain way. I have always said to women that buying pieces, I think the adage is that cheap is expensive. So you can look to buy, for instance, 3 to 4 average blazers at I don't know what kind of a shop, mass-produced shop. And look, they're not cheap. When I say mass-produced shop, they're retailing a blazer between $295 and $395, and that's what we call a mass-produced offshore thing. But you can buy 2 to 3, and your cost analysis is about $1,000. In each of those pieces, you might have them for a year. You feel average in wear them a handful of times. As opposed to looking to invest in a piece, or one that you absolutely, when you put it on, it fits like a glove. You feel $1 million, and that particular piece will work back with your evening attire as well as your work attire as well as your casual attire. Like there's a particular piece or a blazer in my collection that hits all those for me. I wear it religiously and I always get stocked in it all the time. So that's how I try to, when I'm sort of working with a client, help them see a mindset of, sometimes the way that you shop or your habits are actually incredibly expensive. And I have met women that have had things in the wardrobe with tags on it, like that. I'm not to say that breaks my heart. I have a particular rule for myself personally, Amy, and it is when you bring one thing in, one thing goes. A lot of people find that very scary, but I like to liken it to a particular energy flow. And movement and growth in our lives. So and sometimes we find it hard. It was like a new thing comes in, you reevaluate your wardrobe, you're okay, well, what goes out now? So when we look at what we're spending on especially on pieces that particularly aren't being worn or they're being gifted, I guess people are incredibly surprised. But once they've got into the habit of creating a mindset about investment, and I mean, not just in clothing, I look at that in white goods, lounges, anything. I mean, unless you're looking at long term or how long is this going to last, I always ask people either make do, that's coming back to being sustainable, see what you have in your family that you can beg, borrow or steal until you can actually afford that piece that you go, you know what, I'm going to have this for the X amount of years. I'm going to get a certain amount of value out of it. So adopting that kind of a sustainable approach or a long-term approach or an investment approach, I think it saves you across the board.
100%.
So many time, money, you know, the worry, even the amount of time people spend in acquiring. I mean, a lot of us, we like our quick fixes because momentarily it makes us feel good about ourselves until the next thing comes along. But I think it comes down to just creating new habits and, you know, giving ourselves the time to stop and think, you know, do I love this? How do I feel in it? What's the value? I mean, in everything. That's, it's been a journey that I've been on and something that I try and keep consistently across all my, I guess, my purchases, or when I'm looking to acquire or buy something, I try and look value long term. How is this aiding or assisting me?
And in doing that, you are not buying on a whim as well. So, you know, with the work, some of the money coaching stuff I do, people can, they're subconsciously behaving that creates things like dopamine. So like they just want to get on their phone and they'll order stuff online, or they get up on a Saturday morning and walk, you know, traipse through Westfield to Bondi, mindlessly purchasing to get this sort of trigger of, say, something like dopamine that they're addicted to, but there's no real thought behind it. If you actually are going, there's a checklist in order for me to then part with my money to be making sure that this is a true investment, that checklist stops us from buying mindlessly. And that's where as you sort of put it, it can be quite expensive in long term if you aren't really thinking about the picture. As you know, you're just in the process of moving. I've just moved house. You do reevaluate everything when you're looking at a new home and what furniture you need or what stuff you can't fit in the house. All those things have to go through your mind. We're doing a lot of research now on the right barbecue and the right setting, and we're not going to compromise. Why compromise when it's something that's going to be about feeding our family and an experience that we want to go on for a very long time? You know, same thing about dressing ourselves. It is an investment. You brought up two things earlier about how a woman will feel good when the quality of the garment is, you know, made to measure potentially, but just made in that high end versus it might still be a couple of $100, $300, but going that extra mile can make a massive difference to how you feel and how you look. And that's where the true investment is, where it comes down to where we're parting with our money. Bringing back to how your business goes, you've had to obviously be very careful and mindful of how you operate your business with this kind of model.
Yep.
Can you give me, have you?
So Amy, I was going to say, even when we were just touching on investing, the business has been operating for 2 years now, and I look to what I call a direct model approach at the moment. So that's where I sell direct to clients. If and when for certain items, if I was to try and factor in wholesale and retail, a case example of a blazer retailing at $6.99 would retail at $9.99 or $1,000. So to try and make something, I guess if you could use the word accessible to my clients, I sell online primarily. I do so also through events and do custom made, but I look at that direct approach for me to be able to warrant, I guess, the margins and make the business viable for me. The other thing that's sort of where I'm at an advantage at the moment, as I said, is being able to be agile. Obviously, with the custom made pieces, there's nothing that's being produced there that's not already prepaid or thought of financially, I think, in that aspect. As I said, also with my smaller runs, looking at doing only 30 sort of pieces at a time and producing locally here in Australia, that also gives me a handle on production and not overproducing or sitting on anything that I think may not go. I guess in the height of COVID last year, I was, I guess, in a great spot as opposed to a lot of people, because I didn't have 10 or 15 retail stores that were closed overnight like a lot of other people. I think for me, moving forward, to continue to do the events, which gives women an opportunity to come in and see the garment and feel it. And look, one or two shots in the next year or so isn't out of the question. It's just, I think I've been very fortunate and lucky to date, just starting intimately, focusing on a beautiful product and selling direct to clients to begin with. As I said, but having said that, you know, we might sit here and have a podcast in another 18 months to 2 years where I've expanded and grown and in a very different situation. But because as the sole sort of business owner and runner, the way that I've been modeling it the last year or two, to me, made sense. And also because I think there was a demand, an increased demand for not saying a slower pace, so to speak, but more of an intimate, a boutique product where people could meet the designer. I mean, as I said, I have these showings more so now, obviously throughout COVID wasn't a possibility, but now moving into 2021, opportunities for women to come in and hear about what it's like to produce and manufacture in Australia, and then also get that added information and support around sustainability, how a garment's made, how you should care for a garment, or what creates longevity, or, you know, a particular wardrobe that's going to work for you. So that's something that's very passionate. I think the one-on-ones I get to do with clients, obviously as I grow the business, it won't be, my time will be stretched out, but if I can transition a lot of my philosophy and beliefs, I guess, into a video format, it's still going to be able to reach a lot of people and give them that insight or that message around, I guess, supporting Australian made and boutique businesses in general, not just in fashion and production, but more of a mindset around looking at our local talent here and really looking to support that and grow that, which I think has happened throughout COVID. I was really surprised. I was expecting 2020 to be perhaps a year of shrinkage, but it's interesting to say or talk to people to go, for me personally, it's been a really great year, which is positive, or, you know, I'm quite thrilled about.
It's been quite a unique year because we started off with severe bushfires, some of the worst this country's ever really experienced. But out of that, there was this movement to shop local and support local, and be mindful of our the people who are producing what we use every day that affected our farmers and our small businesses and our communities. And from that, the message then continued to spread because COVID happened, people locked down, and people's businesses were affected again in a different way. Yeah. So I had this mind shift of, where will I spend my money? How am I spending my money? And looking at how we can support our communities or our local businesses. And that all comes down and weaves into the concept of also the sustainability movement, where we became aware that the world shut down and all of a sudden our environment thanked us for it. It was clearer. This conversation of the environment, it answered itself in some respect because the world had to stop. And with that, our minds had to very quickly shift. So in a business like yours, it's fantastic because you've actually had that opportunity to sit on that journey, and that, through these two massive challenges this country's seen, and actually it worked for you, which is fantastic. Yeah. And it's going to work for a lot of businesses that actually are going more online and focusing direct to the client, to the consumer. Yeah. There's so many things that we've realised aren't necessary in this world anymore. Like, I feel bad for a lot of those property investors with commercial properties in CBD that now businesses aren't using or halving. People are sharing offices. Like, I'll only go into the city twice a week versus being in there full time. Yeah. My husband and I haven't been in the city pretty much at all this year.
Wow.
And one client meeting in town, and that's it. And that was before COVID. He hasn't had any meetings in town at all this year, and we've managed to run business from home. So it's a very different world, and yours has been created prior to the world changing, and it's actually changed for you in your favour.
Timing. It's funny about timing, Amy, and where you can find yourself or be positioned and be in as I said, an advantage point, so to speak. Yeah, as I said, but I guess for a lot of other people, where you're right, they've either had a commercial lease or they've had a lot of eggs out there, so to speak. They've had to rein it in and reevaluate. Because I think my business being in its infancy and just sort of getting into the growth phase, I wasn't in a position where I was paying retail space. And I guess for my business as well, the move to online was fast and furious even before COVID hit. So all the brands or anyone out there that's actually got a product, if they weren't already transitioning to online or had an online presence, I guess COVID very, very rapidly made that a reality for them. I think moving forward, there always will still be a need or a space for, whether it be a showroom. People, whilst we're transitioning to the online world, people are hardwired for a relationship. They still want to look, feel, touch, hold something. I think in the space that I'm in, we just need to reevaluate what that looks like, instead of, a flagship store on every corner. I mean, in my instance, it'll be a showroom, or creating a boutique experience where people come and book into the showroom and try pieces on. And then obviously, naturally, there are a lot of things online that just easy fits or easy wears that you can buy online, return online, like a lot of people do. So 2021 and the following year, I think, even once our vaccine's in place, we're all, I guess, up and living in the new normal, the retail spaces and office blocks, and we will still be shifting and rethinking about how we get about in our world and how we operate and do business. But yeah, this year for me, I've found myself probably in the upsweep of a lot of support for local makers and producers and local businesses. I mean, before in clothing or my business, there was a huge shift about people wanting to know where their food was produced, how their food was produced, was it locally made, and sort of there's been a follow-on effect for a lot of people asking those similar questions across all their purchases. Where does Australia sit in production across A, B, C, or D? I mean, over the last 20 years, we've closed all our factories across everything from the automotive industry to clothing, footwear, textiles. Like, I was going to say, just before we wrap up, I deal with one of the last man standing manufacturers of high-end cottons and jersey knits in Melbourne, and they've been in business for 25 years, and they produce and manufacture for international high-end brands in the States and internationally. And I actually sort of do business with them to produce portions of my collections, and to be able to create and produce something that is 100% Australian made is really not heard of in 2020. It doesn't exist. But having said that, some of the colleagues and peers and people that I've met and dealt with over the years, from footwear to millinery, they're now all looking around Australia and getting in contact and connection with people that are essentially in retirement, that whether they're milliners or whatnot, to see if we can bring back more manufacturing and more producing here, where some industries had previously died. So it'll be interesting even. I mean, another chat is about the labour costs, which is different altogether. But I think with the shift in mindset, where people are looking at investing or spending a little bit more and having something that's quality or lasts, hopefully we see a future or some sort of a resurgence here in Australia in the manufacturing and the production, especially if it can facilitate more jobs locally here at home. But that's probably a chat for another time.
You know, there's so much there that exactly there. We are all changing. I think it's been a slow process. The challenge we're all up against are these big companies that will try and shove down our throat the instant gratification, and which causes mass consumer behaviour and whatnot. But as an advisor, I see people wanting to invest their money and into their superannuation, into ethical and sustainable investments. So it's not just where we're thinking about what goes on our plates and what goes on our clothing. It's how our money's being spent or how our money's being invested and what kind of businesses they're going into. So there is a massive movement, and it's a positive one. If we do something about, if we aren't going to jump on board with this, we won't have the future. This world will not be the world we currently live in now. I mean, it's just going to go downhill if we aren't looking after it. Everything you sort of mentioned has an impact on our environment, and it's also got an impact on our economy. It's got an impact on our well-being. It's actually quite a massive wellness wheel, but from a global scale. Just thinking and changing our mindset to buying, say a garment through you versus me going and buying, spending a few $100 on a blazer that won't be able to wash and wear and throw into a suitcase, and it would be torn apart after a couple of years. Whereas I know your fabrics, because you've sourced them from an Australian producer. You've done all your research on that. You've done the trial, yourself on those items before they come to me as a consumer. Me knowing that means that I'm feeling more confident in parting my money with a business like yourself, and knowing that I'm going to have these key pieces long term. But it has a ramification in so many ways. You just sort of hit the nail on the head with that. And that's what we've all got to be mindful for. The minimalist concept I struggle with, but that's me being Saggy, that I can't, lots of crazy. I like mess around me. I can't help myself. I like lots of colour, lots of knickknacks, and I like to collect. I'm a bit of a hoarder, but I love the idea of being simple and having a more simpler existence. But the idea of being able to go and have something made, old school, the old romantic in me. It's like, like Anne of Green Gables and going and getting my first dress properly made for me,
Beautiful. When you have those moments, Amy, and we all do, all being a Sagittarius, because I adopted what we call a minimalist approach. When I am looking to have a particular tea party or fancy hoo-ha, I normally knock on a family friend store or a girlfriend I know to borrow that particular china or those decorations or whatever it is for that moment. Another thing with other girlfriends, even in my own wardrobe, when they've had an event, gosh, I shouldn't talk them again away from shopping or buying, but I'm like, oh, I've got a great royal blue dress here for you. It's going to fit you to a T. Why don't you wear that to occasion? You don't have to worry about buying it as a one-off. I'm happy to lend it to you. And I think that's where quite a few of the higher places have done really, really well. But look, I think be true to yourself and wave your flag of colour as sorts, and be that. But I think within the wider scope, as you said, just we look at a long-term and long-term mentality, and maybe how we can share that joy or that love around that ultimately serves the planet, and people for the future.
Yeah, it's a great message. I mean, there's so much we could, as you said, we could talk more and more about this, and I'd love to get you on the show again. Maybe we talk a bit more around the business modeling and how, maybe even how you use fabrics and just the ongoing vision that you have with your business.
Sure.
I find this all very fascinating, and I'm sure that if I do, others would.
Excellent.
I think it's really important that we often lift the lid on how we run our own businesses as well, because, money needs to be shared in all sorts of ways, or the concept of money and how we manage it and how we build on it and whatnot. So I want to do a bit of a call to action. How do people contact you? Have a look at where your designs are.
Amy, obviously I've got my social media channels, which would be Instagram and Facebook, and the name for that is Sarah Lloyd Australia. They can jump on social media, they can message me direct, they can also email me through my website, which is www.sarahloyd.com.au. I do have assistants who sort of filter a handful of the emails, but I'm also on top of them myself. So if you address it to me, 100% of the time I will get back to you in due course. My next event will be scheduled from the studio in early March 2021, and I will be advertising that in early January from the website. So yeah, reach out or get in touch with me direct. And any of those women, obviously I'm based here in Sydney, so for the Melbourne and Brisbane clients or Perth clients, a lot of them, sometimes I'll do a video or a Zoom where need be to talk about custom made, but definitely for all the Cindy women, March next year will be the next event. So jump online and reach out as need be.
Fantastic. And obviously another call to action, if you are liking the Sensibility podcast, I encourage you all to share with people you think would be interested in hearing us have this chat, or other episodes that are coming out. And also, if you are interested in what your money type is, I've got that money type on my website as well. So that's a little fun game that finds out what archetypes you're sort of channeling in, which can affect how you and your money, how you behave with your money. So thank you again, Sarah, for coming on board. I would love to get you back on. I love your range. I'm looking forward to investing in a few pieces and maybe getting a custom made one soon. So that's exciting. I've just got to change my body shape a little bit after this baby. That's all. But we'll get.
Amy, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you this morning, and I'd love to do a follow-up chat with you in the new year when you're ready. And as you said, there's a lot.
There's a lot we could talk about.
There's a lot that we could talk about. But again, thank you to all the listeners, and thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Well, everyone have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Oops.